Hello, welcome to The Address of Fear. If you love horror stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you're ready, let's get started. Jennifer Beauchamp was 13 years old, but her age did not represent innocence. Childhood, for her, was not a period filled with joyful memories or decorated with toys. Her childhood was trapped within four walls, a cold prison filled with shadows. She had never felt the love of her family. There was more discipline than affection, more orders than embraces, more punishment than compassion in her world. Her father's harsh voice, her mother's silent submission, and her sister's indifferent glances. They were all figures fueling the raging fire of anger growing inside Jennifer. And now, they would burn in that fire. That night, instead of sleeping in her room, Jennifer was lost in the dark labyrinth of her thoughts. The moonlight hit the windowsill, making the shadows inside even more pronounced. She clenched her fists tightly. She would no longer be afraid. She would no longer take orders. She would no longer be little, pathetic Jennifer. She would kill them. She had been shaping her plan in her mind for days, maybe even weeks. Her father would sit in front of the television at the same hour every night, dozing off while smoking his cigarette. Her mother, as always, would retreat to her room exhausted and silent. Her younger sister, Claire, would shut herself in her room, claiming she was studying but actually spending hours talking on the phone. No one cared what Jennifer was doing. That was why she had the perfect opportunity to carry out her plan. When the clock struck midnight, Jennifer silently got out of bed. She controlled her breathing and opened her bedroom door. She stepped carefully to avoid making the wooden floor creak. Her heart was pounding wildly in her chest, her hands sweating from excitement. If she hesitated now, she would never have the courage to do it again. She had to do this. For her own freedom, for her own life. Her father had to die. As she slipped into the living room, everything was just as she had planned. Her father was slumped over, asleep in the dim glow of the television. An empty bottle of liquor sat beside him. His mouth was slightly open, his breathing uneven. Jennifer hesitated. Until now, it had only been a thought. But now she was about to take a real step to kill him. Her hands began to tremble. A voice inside whispered, "Stop!" But another voice, stronger, darker, screamed, "Do it! Do it now!" She went to the kitchen and grabbed the knife she had prepared earlier. Her fingers ran over the cold metal. The sharpness was tangible, almost threatening her fingertips. She approached her father. She raised the knife to his chest. For a moment, she stopped. She looked at the face of the man who had belittled, scolded, beaten, and yelled at her for years. That face had haunted her nightmares. But now she didn't need to be afraid anymore. Now she would create her own nightmares. She brought the knife down swiftly. The first stab plunged into his chest. Her father coughed, his eyes snapping open. A hoarse gurgle came from his throat. Jennifer didn't pull back. There was no emotion on her face. She just knew she had to continue. The second stab, the third, the fourth. Warm blood splattered onto Jennifer's face. Her father's eyes were wide open in terror, but he couldn't even scream. Finally, his entire body went limp. His arms fell to his sides. Jennifer took a deep breath and looked at his corpse. He was dead, but it wasn't over. She was just getting started. Her mother and sister were still alive. They had to die too. Jennifer wiped her trembling hands on her shirt and turned toward the kitchen. Next was her mother. The first step of her dark plan was complete. But this was only the beginning. Jennifer's plan had begun at a family dinner. From the outside, everything seemed ordinary. The smell of roasted meat coming from the kitchen, the clinking of plates being placed on the table, her father muttering angrily at the news on television, her mother's silence, and Claire, as always, glued to her phone. How ordinary. But for Jennifer, this ordinariness was just a veil that would make that night's horror even deeper. Her eyes carefully scanned each family member at the table. Her father's face carried an exhausted anger. Her mother held her fork with lifeless eyes. Claire, without even glancing at Jennifer, was lost in her screen. They had no idea they were going to die. This thought brought Jennifer an eerie sense of peace. She would grant them a death so meaningless that even their existence would seem irrelevant. She slowly reached for her fork, letting her fingers glide over the cold metal. The sound of the knife slicing through the meat on her plate brought different images to her mind. Bones cracking, warm blood gushing like a fountain, muffled screams. And at that exact moment, her father lifted his head and looked at Jennifer. "Why are you staring like that? Eat your food." Jennifer smiled slightly. The first person who needed to die was her father, and now he was looking straight into her eyes. "Shout at me, order me around, belittle me. Tonight, I will silence you forever. But not now. Not yet." Jennifer continued eating with a calm expression, trying to suppress the excitement rising within her. If she made it too obvious, everything would be ruined. She had to be patient. She felt like a hunter, a predator watching, its innocent-looking prey waiting for the perfect moment to strike. After dinner, everyone went their separate ways. Her father sat in front of the TV. Her mother started washing the dishes. Claire locked herself in her room to text for hours. This was the perfect opportunity for Jennifer. She silently retreated to her room and locked the door. Now, all she had to do was take the first step. She wouldn't let this night end as just another ordinary evening. Jennifer had two options. She could either take the knife from the kitchen and handle things quietly, or use her father's gun from his room. The gun was a faster solution, but the noise could ruin everything. The knife, on the other hand, was more personal, more painful. She made her decision. Her father's gun. Her father kept his gun in the drawer of his bedroom dresser. It would be difficult to get to it, but not impossible. If she didn't kill him tonight, she might never find the courage to do it again. She cracked open her door and slipped into the hallway with silent steps. All the lights were off. The flickering glow of the TV at the end of the living room cast a pale blue light over the rooms. From the kitchen, the sound of dishes clinking in the water echoed. Her mother was still there. That was good. When her father fell asleep, he wouldn't hear anything. Holding her breath, she slid into the bedroom. The room was pitch dark, but she knew the way. Walking on her toes, she reached the top drawer of the dresser. Her fingers moved quickly, searching. There it was. Cold, metallic, deadly. As she gripped the gun, a strange shiver ran through her body. But it wasn't fear. It was more like power. At that moment, a sound came from outside. Jennifer froze. For a few seconds, she heard nothing, only the deafening thud of her own heartbeat. Then, a door closed somewhere in the house, and silence followed. Relief washed over her. It must have been her sister going into her room. She hadn't been noticed, but time was running out. She tightened her grip on the gun and pulled it from the drawer, pressing it against her chest. Her father was still asleep on the couch. There was nothing stopping her now. Jennifer moved back toward the living room, her footsteps light as air. Her father's head had lolled to the side, a deep, raspy snore escaping from his lips. A half-drunk beer bottle lay toppled beside him. The coldness of the gun numbed Jennifer's fingertips, but her mind had never been clearer. She raised the gun to her father's head. Deep inside, a voice rose up. "Now. Finish it. Pull the trigger. He always belittled you. He never saw you. Don't forgive him." Jennifer's lips curled into a smile. She slowly leaned down and whispered into his ear, "Can't you hear me, Dad?" The man stirred slightly but didn't open his eyes. The excitement swelling inside Jennifer was almost dizzying. She stared at his face for a moment longer. That grim, stern face. The man who had made her life hell for years was now at his most vulnerable. Jennifer took a deep breath. This was only the first step, and the first step was always the hardest. She closed her eyes and pulled the trigger. Bang! Blood splattered across the couch. Her father's head snapped back. His eyes were open, but empty. A moment of silence. Then, a scream from the kitchen. Her mother. Jennifer smiled. There was no turning back now. Tonight, the family was finished. As Jennifer felt the cold metal of the gun in her hands, she knew there was no going back. She had thought that the moment she pulled the trigger, something inside her would change, that maybe she would feel the slightest bit of regret. But she didn't. As her father's head fell back, his eyes wide open but lifeless, Jennifer felt absolutely nothing, nothing at all. The scream from the kitchen tore through the deep silence of the night. Her mother. The panic in her voice stirred something inside Jennifer. Fear. Real fear. But it didn't belong to her. For years, her mother and father had made her breathe in their fear like a thick, suffocating fog within the walls of this house. But now, that fog had lifted. Now they were the ones afraid. Her mother appeared at the kitchen doorway. Her face was pale as a ghost, lips trembling. Her eyes locked onto the corpse slumped on the couch, then slowly shifted to Jennifer. There was terror in them. But what mattered most to Jennifer was the acceptance she also saw there. Her mother knew this wasn't a dream. She knew there was no escape. Jennifer tightened her grip on the gun and pointed it at her mother. "Jennifer, what are you doing?" Her mother's voice was barely a whisper. Jennifer took a step forward without hesitation. The woman standing before her was the one who had stolen her life, who had stayed silent and watched while she suffered. Her mother had known everything her father did to her. But she never stopped him. She never protected her. And to Jennifer, that was enough reason to deserve this fate. "You never loved me," Jennifer said, her voice devoid of emotion. "You always stayed silent. You looked away. But now you look at me. Watch me." Her mother's lips moved, but no sound came out. She took a few steps back, seeing the darkness in Jennifer's eyes. But Jennifer wouldn't let her escape. She raised the gun. The moment her finger touched the trigger, her mother panicked, stumbling backward. She hit a chair, lost her balance, and crashed to the floor. But the fear in her mother's eyes wasn't enough. Jennifer needed more terror. She pressed the cold barrel of the gun against her mother's forehead. The woman was trembling. "Forgive me," her mother whispered. "Please, Jennifer, you don't have to do this." Jennifer leaned in, staring into her mother's eyes. She saw regret, but not love. There was not a single drop of love left in this woman for her, and somehow that realization was even more satisfying than she had expected. "I don't have to," Jennifer murmured. "But I will." The gunshot rang out. Her mother's head snapped back violently. Jennifer stared at her lifeless body for a few seconds. No screams, no last words, just silence, just like always. With a small sigh, she straightened up. Now, two bodies lay on the floor, motionless. She had thought the smell of blood would disturb her, but now she realized it was oddly comforting. It smelled like freedom. And yet, something was missing. Jennifer slowly knelt beside her father's corpse. His eyes were still open, frozen in shock. This had been too easy. And her mother, yes, she had been afraid. But Jennifer had expected more begging, more suffering. She dragged her fingers across the blood-soaked carpet. She had wanted this so badly, so why did she now feel empty? She got up and walked into the kitchen. She opened the drawer where the knives were kept and picked the biggest one. She held it up to the light. Sharp, clean, but not for long. She carried the knife back to her mother's corpse. There was no real reason to do this, but deep inside she felt a strange urge. She needed to tear them apart even more. Jennifer slowly knelt down and drove the knife into her mother's chest. Once, then again, and again. With each stab, she breathed easier. With each thrust of the blade, years of pent-up rage poured out of her. By the time she was done, her clothes were drenched in blood. She wiped a few droplets off her face with the back of her hand. Taking a deep breath, she stood up. Now, it was complete. A satisfying silence had settled over the house, but she wasn't finished yet. Claire was still alive. Jennifer tightened her grip on the knife. Her little sister was upstairs. She must have heard everything. She must have been frozen in fear. Jennifer smiled faintly as she stepped toward the stairs. In the darkness and silence, she climbed, step by step. There was one last thing left to do. Jennifer climbed the stairs slowly. Each step echoed beneath the wooden floorboards, forming an ominous rhythm. The knife she had taken from the kitchen was still in her grasp. The gun was silent. But a knife was more personal. The hallway was dark, except for the faint sliver of light escaping from beneath Claire's door. Was she awake? If she had woken up, she must have heard everything. But if she hadn't, then Jennifer's job would be even easier. She stopped in front of the door, listening. Silence. Carefully, she pushed the door open, moving slowly to prevent it from creaking. As she stepped inside, the dim light revealed Claire's small body lying on the bed. She was asleep. But what surprised Jennifer was Claire's face. She wasn't afraid. Her eyes were closed, but her breathing wasn't steady. She was pretending to sleep. Jennifer chuckled silently to herself. Did she really think that would save her? It would only make things easier. She stepped forward quietly, inching closer. But just as Jennifer reached the bed, Claire's eyes snapped open. The look in them sent a chill down Jennifer's spine. No fear, only expectation. Claire stared at Jennifer without blinking. Then, in a soft, eerie whisper, she said, "I know." Jennifer froze. She felt her heartbeat pause for a moment. Claire remained still, her voice barely above a breath. "I knew, Jennifer. I knew you would come tonight." Jennifer's grip tightened around the knife. What was she saying? Claire slowly sat up in bed, unnervingly calm. This wasn't normal. She smiled, just slightly, as if she had been expecting Jennifer's hesitation. "You killed Mom and Dad, didn't you?" she whispered. Jennifer didn't answer. She just narrowed her eyes, watching. Claire tilted her head to the side, her expression oddly serene. "I wanted them dead too," she murmured. Her voice was as cold as death itself. Something cracked in Jennifer's mind. What was she saying? Claire continued, her gaze unblinking. "I knew what Dad did to you. I knew how Mom ignored it. But you know what, Jennifer?" She leaned in slightly. They were only the beginning. Jennifer took a step back. Something about Claire's eerie stillness was far darker than anything she had imagined. Then, Claire slowly reached under her bed. Jennifer lunged forward instantly, driving the knife straight into Claire's chest. Claire's body jolted. Her eyes widened. But there was still no fear. Blood bloomed across her nightgown. Jennifer pulled back, ripping the blade from her sister's flesh. But instead of a scream, Claire laughed. Jennifer's breath caught in her throat. What the hell was this? Claire's breathing grew ragged, but even as blood dripped from her lips, she smiled. "You didn't scare me," she rasped, "but I can scare you." Then, her hand shot out, grabbing Jennifer's arm, fingernails dug into her flesh. Jennifer yanked back, but Claire's grip was impossibly strong. Claire's body began to tremble. Her pupils dilated, blackness swallowing the whites of her eyes. Jennifer knew her sister should be dead, but Claire, with her final, shuddering breath, whispered, "You're not the only darkness in this house, Jennifer." Jennifer wrenched herself free, stumbling backward. Claire collapsed onto the bed, her glassy eyes fixed on the ceiling, lifeless. But those eyes, they were still looking at her, still watching. Jennifer, breathless and trembling, backed toward the door. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. Claire's empty gaze had latched onto her, refusing to let go. She slowly closed the door, but as she stepped outside, she felt it. Something had changed. Darkness had spread throughout the house, and by killing Claire, Jennifer might have only opened the door to an even greater nightmare. She slowly raised her hands to her head. Her fingertips trembled. No matter how many times she tried to wash them, she could still feel the blood. Its scent was everywhere. The kitchen clock echoed through the suffocating silence of the house, marking each second like an eternal reminder. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time was moving forward, yet Jennifer remained trapped in the same moment. The moment of the kill. Her father's bloody body. Her mother's final glance. Claire's eerie words. She sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. The darkness surrounded her, enclosing her in a suffocating stillness. She was alone. Or was she? A whisper drifted through the air, bouncing off the walls of the room. At first, she thought it was just her mind playing tricks on her, but then the voice became clearer. Jennifer. A chill crawled down her spine. That voice. It was Claire's. But Claire was dead. Jennifer had stabbed her with her own hands. Claire was dead, wasn't she? You can't forget me, Jennifer shot to her feet. The shadows in the room seemed to swell and shrink, warping in and out of reality. Her eyes darted to the corners of the room. Nothing. Yet something was there. Her breathing became erratic. She stepped toward the door. Then she saw it. Something moved on the carpet. Jennifer blinked. The bloodstains were still there. But now, they were shifting. The droplets slowly merged, forming a shape. Claire's face. Jennifer screamed, stumbling back. This was impossible. Claire was dead, but her mind was betraying her now. The voices grew stronger. She could faintly hear her mother's voice whispering in her ear. You're just a helpless little girl. Her father's voice followed. You'll never escape me. Jennifer clamped her hands over her ears. She tried to shut them out, but the more she fought, the louder they became. She felt herself trembling. The emptiness inside her was consuming her whole. For a moment she shut her eyes, and when she opened them, Claire was there. Not lifeless. Alive. Jennifer's blood ran cold. Claire sat at the edge of her bed, staring at her. Dark circles framed her hollow eyes. Her skin was pale. Her lips curved into a small smile. This wasn't a ghost. This was something worse. You thought you killed me, didn't you? Claire tilted her head. But I never left. Jennifer staggered back. This isn't real. Claire stood up, smiling. You're not alone anymore, Jennifer. I'm here too. Jennifer screamed, but her scream was swallowed by the darkness that had wrapped itself around her. Her mind was rotting. Jennifer walked forward, her steps slow beneath the pale glow of the moonlight. The forest was drowning in the night. Trees, stretching like enormous shadows, their branches whispering in the silence of death. The shovel in her hands dug into her skin, its handle cold, rough, cutting. She had to do this. Claire's lifeless body lay in the darkest corner of the woods, resting atop the damp earth. Her skin was cold now. Jennifer hesitated, lowering her gaze to her. For a moment, just a fleeting moment, it looked as if her eyes were still open, but that wasn't possible. Shivering, Jennifer drove the shovel into the ground. Each thrust tore through damp, decayed roots, the stench of rot burning her lungs. The soil was heavy, cold. The deeper she dug, the emptier she felt. But she wasn't just digging a grave. She was digging the collapse of her own mind. Jennifer froze for a moment. She took a breath. Why was this so hard? She had never hesitated before. Not when she killed her father. Not when she silenced her mother. But Claire's body. This was different. When Jennifer finished digging the deep grave, she adjusted her gloves. She took the shovel and tossed a heap of dirt over Claire's body. And then, it happened. Claire's eyes opened. Jennifer's heart slammed against her ribs. No, impossible. But then, Claire's bloodied lips parted ever so slightly, and she whispered, "You can't forget me." Jennifer let out a piercing scream, the shovel slipping from her trembling fingers. She stumbled backward. A hallucination, it had to be. But Claire's face, it was alive. The trees around her seemed to bend inward. The forest was closing in. Jennifer felt trapped, suffocated. Her thoughts, her sanity, they were being buried along with the dead. She collapsed to her knees. Her mind was caving in on itself, but Claire's voice still echoed inside her skull. "You can't forget me," Jennifer screamed again. But this time, only the forest's hollow echoes answered her. She forced her eyes open. Claire's body lay still, lifeless, dead. But Jennifer was no longer the same. With frantic hands, she shoveled dirt over Claire's body. Her gloves were stained with blood, useless at hiding anything anymore. With every pile of soil she threw, she buried the last fragile pieces of her own humanity. Finally, the grave was sealed. It had become one with the forest. Jennifer stared at the dirt-covered ground. This should be over, but nothing was over. She stood up, breath ragged. Then, a sound behind her. She turned. Beneath the pale moonlight, a silhouette emerged between the trees, and then, Claire's voice rose from beneath the earth. "You'll be buried too, Jennifer." Jennifer's eyes widened in terror. A scream clawed at her throat but never escaped. Claire had won, and deep in her mind, Jennifer knew she had been digging her own grave all along.